Eckhart Tolle's initiation into awakening begins with intense internal suffering, a profound existential despair. One night, burdened by unbearable mental anguish, he utters a paradox. "I can't live with myself anymore." This sentence becomes a catalyst. Who is the I and who is the myself? In this moment, the ego splits, and he awakens not into more thought, but into spacious awareness. This mirrors what depth psychology would call a psychic death of the false self. In Jungian terms, Tolle's self, the narrative, ego-driven persona, was devouring him. The collapse echoes the dark night of the soul, or even a liminal rupture as studied in transpersonal psychology. Tolle experiences not psychosis, but ego dissolution, a rare but documented awakening event in extreme cases of identity breakdown. Such shifts may involve transient hypofrontality, a temporary deactivation of prefrontal ego control centers, allowing the limbic brain and insular cortex to surface raw present-moment awareness. Awakening often begins not in light, but in darkness. What collapses is the false self built on identification with thought. Chapter 1, You Are Not Your Mind. The greatest trick the mind ever pulled was convincing you that you are it. We wake up each day drowning in thought. I need to answer those emails. What if I fail? What did she mean by that? An endless monologue loops in the background of our consciousness like white noise we no longer notice. Tolle interrupts this trance with a quiet bombshell. The voice in your head is not you. It sounds simple, almost underwhelming, until you realize your entire self is built upon that voice. Modern psychology calls this cognitive fusion, the state where your thoughts become your identity. ACT therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, teaches cognitive diffusion as a way out, to create space between the thought and the thinker. Tolle's version is more radical. He doesn't want you to manage your thoughts. He wants you to observe them until you realize they are not the core of your being, just like clouds aren't the sky. This witnessing awareness, he says, is your true identity. Meanwhile, neuroscience confirms the default mode network, the part of your brain most active when thinking about yourself, your future, your past, is quieted by present-moment awareness. When you are truly here, the DMN, your ego's neurological playground, goes offline. Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that the self is a relation that relates itself to itself. Tolle simply adds, the false self is a narrative loop. The real self is awareness without narration. Chapter 2. Consciousness, the way out of pain. Pain doesn't arise from events. It arises from resistance to them. Tolle introduces the pain body, a living field of stored emotional suffering. It's not metaphorical. Anyone who's ever felt gripped by a surge of rage, jealousy, or grief knows what he means. It feels like something takes over. You say things you regret. You feel hijacked. This, says Tolle, isn't you. It's a parasitic structure of emotional memory that reactivates when triggered. In psychological terms, this is limbic imprinting, trauma patterns stored in the body, waiting for a cue. Bessel van der Kolk calls it implicit memory, experiences encoded in the nervous system outside of conscious recall. Peter Levine described it as the trauma loop, a stuck fight-flight-freeze cycle that never completed itself. Tolle bypasses the clinical language. He simply says, observe it. Don't fight the pain body. Don't suppress it. Don't identify with it. Shine the light of awareness on it, and it begins to dissolve. You are not the pain. You are the space in which the pain arises. Chapter 3. Moving deeply into the now. It's one thing to understand presence. It's another to live there. Tolle shifts from concept to experience. You don't reach the now by thinking about it. You enter it through the body, breath, sensation, aliveness. This mirrors John Kabat-Zinn's MBSR, somatic therapy, and polyvagal theory. Presence isn't a thought. It's a shift in physiological state. When you redirect awareness from thought to breath, from memory to sensation, The brain rewires. New neural pathways form. You train your attention like a muscle. Neuroscience confirms insular activation increases, the region responsible for bodily awareness and emotional regulation. The result? You stop spinning in abstract mental loops. You return to what is real. You feel grounded, safe, even if life is messy. Tolle doesn't promise bliss. He offers something more powerful, freedom from compulsive thinking. Not mental silence, but alert stillness. Not transcendence, but immersion in the here and now. Chapter 4. Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. Time as Ego's Greatest Weapon. Here, Tolle exposes the most addictive illusion. The future will save you. The ego's favorite lie is always, you'll be happy when you make more money, when you lose weight, when you meet the right person, when you retire. This is what Albert Camus warned us about. The absurdity of living for a future that never arrives. It's what Buddhists call becoming. The mind's constant reaching, never arriving. Tolle says the ego doesn't fear suffering, it fears presence. Because presence is the death of the ego. It only exists through time. And here's the kicker, neuroscience backs it up. The dopaminergic system, the reward circuitry of the brain, is activated not by pleasure, but by anticipated reward. You don't crave the reward, you crave the chase. The ego thrives on anticipation because anticipation keeps you out of the now. Tolle doesn't say, don't plan. He says, don't live in plans. The cure? See time as a tool, not a home. Arrive here, now, again. Chapter 5, The State of Presence. Presence isn't a mystical trance. It's the background awareness in which thought, feeling, and sensation appear. Tolle compares it to the sky, vast, unmoving. Your thoughts? Just weather. This concept appears across wisdom traditions. In Buddhism, it's vipassana, pure observation without clinging or aversion. In ACT, it's the observing self, the stable I behind the noise. In flow psychology, it's the quiet ego that disappears during peak performance. When you're present, something strange happens. Time collapses. You no longer calculate, you respond. You no longer reflect, you perceive. This is what athletes, artists, and mystics call flow. You don't do presence. You become it. You are the now, and everything else fades. Tolle's practice? Notice the gap between thoughts. It's not the thoughts that matter. It's the stillness they emerge from. And in that stillness, you meet yourself for the first time. Chapter 6. The Inner Body. Tolle begins to deepen the practice here. Until now, presence has been a somewhat abstract awareness, a silent witnessing. But in this chapter, it becomes visceral. He invites you to shift attention into the body, not as an escape from the mind, but as a direct way to dissolve the illusion of mind identity. By placing awareness on breath, heartbeat, or the subtle sensation of your hands from the inside, you begin to feel a faint but unmistakable pulse, aliveness itself. This isn't mysticism, it's neurobiology. Somatic therapists know that trauma, anxiety, and dissociation disconnect us from interoception, the felt sense of being alive. When you reconnect to bodily sensation, you stimulate the ventral vagus nerve, shifting the body into a state of calm alertness. In polyvagal terms, this is the social engagement system, where you feel grounded, safe, open. Tolle is offering a doorway to self-regulation. Don't ask your mind to bring you peace. Feel your inner body, and peace will find you. He wants you to understand the body isn't a prison. It's the anchor of consciousness, a living temple of now. Chapter 7. Portals into the Unmanifested. Here Tolle goes beyond the personal. He speaks of the unmanifested, a realm beyond form, thought, identity, even time. To the rational mind, this sounds abstract, perhaps even delusional. But psychologically it resonates. What is the unmanifested? It could be Jung's collective unconscious, the pregnant void that gives rise to symbols, archetypes, intuition. Or the Buddhist concept of shunyata, emptiness not as nihilism, but as pure potential unshaped by language. Tolle gives us access points, not through belief, but through experience. Enter deep stillness. Notice the gap between thoughts. Practice conscious breathing. Let go of internal narrative. Enter no commentary awareness. This is not a state to analyze. It's a dimension to inhabit, a mode of being that feels prior to identity. It's the background hum of existence that was there before you were named. You don't understand the unmanifested. You fall into it, in silence, in surrender, in now. Chapter 8. Enlightened Relationships. Tolle now turns his gaze to where illusion is most seductive: romantic relationships. Most relationships, he says, are not about love. They are about ego feeding ego. Two people using each other to escape the unbearable weight of their own unconscious pain. You seek in your partner the piece of yourself you have abandoned, and then resent them when they can't give it to you. Attachment theory echoes this. People replay their childhood wounds, craving from a partner what they didn't get from a parent. Anxious types cling. Avoidance withdraw. Each reenacts a familiar trauma script, calling it love. Codependency, Tolle says, is spiritual avoidance, but he doesn't tell you to detach. He offers a more courageous path. Use the relationship as a mirror. Let the pain it brings up be your teacher. Don't escape. Don't blame. Awaken through it. This is love not as need but as presence. Not intoxication but transparency. Not you complete me but I meet you in the now. Only there can real love begin. Chapter 9. Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. Tolle invites us now into a higher freedom, not from suffering but from reaction. Happiness and unhappiness, he says, are forms, conditions that rise and fall. Peace is not a condition. It is non-reactive spaciousness. This aligns beautifully with DBT's radical acceptance. Suffering comes not from pain, but from demanding that pain shouldn't be here. The moment you drop resistance, peace appears like still water beneath a storm. Tolle warns, the ego wants happiness, but not real peace, because peace doesn't make it special. The ego wants to chase highs and avoid lows. It wants drama, identity, story. Presence wants none of that. And so Tolle offers the ultimate rebellion. Stop seeking, stop resisting, just be, even if it's boring, even if it's uncomfortable, because peace is not pleasure. It is the absence of conflict with what is. Chapter 10. The meaning of surrender. Surrender. The word alone evokes weakness, defeat, collapse. But for Tolle, surrender is the highest clarity. It's not submission. It's releasing resistance to the present moment. Where Freud saw resistance as the ego's armor against the unconscious, Tolle sees it as the barrier to life itself. We resist because we're afraid that if we stop fighting we'll fall apart. But the truth, after surrender you don't fall. You rise, lighter, emptier, freer. Surrender is embodied Aikido. You don't meet force with force. You meet it with stillness, and it disarms itself. In that surrender, ego dies, and what remains is not nothingness, but spacious awareness. Not helplessness, but inner power. You become unshakable, not because nothing moves you, but because you no longer cling to movement. Tolle's brilliance doesn't lie in invention. It lies in integration. He merges trauma healing, neuroscience, depth psychology, Buddhism, and existential wisdom into a living method of consciousness. This book is not mystical fluff. It's a manual for the mind, a survival guide for anyone, trapped in overthinking, haunted by the past, addicted to distraction, starving for meaning, searching for peace in all the wrong places. You don't have to believe anything. You only need to stop, breathe, observe, let go, and return to what was never gone, the now.